Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane, and as you can see, it's a little bit misty up here on the moors. It's the sort of day when you'd better be proficient in the use of map and compass, because visibility is certainly less than 100 meters, and it's the sort of day when you're walking back to your car or wherever, and unless you know how to use a map and compass, then you might be in a little bit of difficulty. Anyway, it's a beautiful morning, really. It's not too cold, gentle breeze, and at least it's not a gas cloud. This is a natural cloud, I hope. Last night on episode 116 of Fracking Nightmare, my guest was Helen Chunso, and we were discussing the total lack of emergency response plans in Lancashire, and for that matter, quite probably anywhere else in the country, although they haven't necessarily been asked for with the same degree as in Lancashire, because of course Preston Road is imminently, potentially going to be fracked if Greg Clark signs off on Quadrilla's application. And our case is that Greg Clark would be remiss in signing off that application in the absence of an extremely robust and tested emergency response plan. The attitude in the UK is almost one of arrogant amateurism. It's like, well, don't worry about it because, you know, we'll just be able to deal with it when it happens. Well, that's not good enough. And last night we looked at the situation in Powhatan Point in Ohio in February of this year, when there was a major blowout which took 3 weeks to cap. And we looked at the impact on the community and on the way in which the emergency services responded, but that was based on the fact that they had spent significant time putting a multi-services response plan into place, which kicked in when that well blew on February the 15th of this year. Now, yesterday, Pierre Moreau, the Quebec's Minister of Natural Resources, made this observation: the safety of people, of goods, and the protection of the environment is a prerequisite. Now, if we heard a British politician make that observation, we would know that basically it was just being thrown out as a palliative to get people to get back on with their day-to-day lives and not concern themselves about the potential risks or the fact that their elected representatives and the emergency services just haven't considered the implications of a major event occurring on a frack pad. Now, as it happens, Pierre Moreau was in the process of announcing new restrictions on fracking in Quebec. And he announced that Quebec will prohibit all fracking activities in lakes and rivers across the province, and outside of urban areas and other designated protection zones. For schools, hospitals and public buildings, there will be a 550-metre protective zone. So this looks as though it could well be a situation where 500 metres, or give or take, is established pretty much everywhere, because this is what North Yorkshire have put in their minerals and waste plan. But surely it would be better not to have any fracking whatsoever. And just take a look at the number of people who are in the Lancashire frack zone. And the prevailing winds from Preston Road for 8 months of the year are westerly, and for the other 4 months southeasterly. So that brings Fleetwood and Blackpool very much into the equation. So the total population effectively along that parallel is a little over 500,000, and that's 142,000 in Blackpool, 114,000 in Preston, 25,000 in Fleetwood, 147,000 in Blackburn, 36,000 in Accrington, 73,000 in Burnley, 51,000 in Nelson, and 19,000 in Colne. And then Lytham, which is just to the southwest of the well site, is another 42,000. So we're talking 500,000 people, plus those who live in the rural areas surrounding those larger towns and cities, who are effectively being put at risk. And, you know, I would encourage people to watch last night's episode of Fracking Nightmare. Arguably, it's the most important episode that I have actually put out to date. And it is shocking in that it exposes the total disregard by the establishment and indeed by the leadership of the emergency services to put the necessary focus on what would occur in the event of a major incident. And at Powhatan, it was estimated that over 1 million cubic feet of toxic gases were released into the atmosphere per day over the 3-week period that the well was blowing out. And then the most significant pollution event in the US, particularly on the mainland of, ever, was the Porter Ranch gas leak just to the northwest of Los Angeles back, it was about 3 years ago now, and two and a half years ago. And this was a gas cavern, and don't think that the file is off the hook here, because you may recall that in a fit of pique, after Lancashire County Council rejected Quadrilla's application to drill and frack at Preston Road and Rossiter 3 years ago, on June 2015, Amber Rudd pushed through the permission to establish the halite gas caverns on the wire just south of Fleetwood. And the gas caverns in Los Angeles, they blew, they were overpressurized. The well was blowing for 3 months, and the magnitude of negative health impact is such that basically the US media are doing everything they can to suppress it. And although it does get reported in the Los Angeles media, basically nobody else knows anything about it unless you specifically go looking for it. So, we had a Porter Ranch resident giving us regular updates on Fracking Nightmare as that incident was unfolding. And sadly, over 2 years now after the incident was shut down, then the negative health impacts are still emerging, with a noticeable rise in certain cancers within the community. And this involved the evacuation or the advisable evacuation of some 7,000 properties in the Porter Ranch area. There's no thought given to the possibility that such an event could occur in the UK. This is just arrogance in the extreme. So listen, I'm going to keep this morning's broadcast short, because I really want to encourage people to watch last night's episode of Fracking Nightmare, which you will find on the Ian Rowland Crane Facebook page, and please share it around. And the important thing is that people on the Fylde Peninsula and people literally right across Lancashire, and particularly those who happen to be downwind in those communities of Preston and Accrington and Blackburn and Burnley and Nelson and Colne, you are downwind of any gas cloud which leaches into the atmosphere as a result of Quadrilla's incompetence. And as we discussed during the show last night, Quadrilla's incompetence is of course a matter of public record, and anyone who thinks that they've magically acquired the technical capability and the skills to be able to do this without a problem is living in La La Land. So this is quite possibly the most critical few days, maybe a couple of weeks or whatever, in this whole sorry unconventional gas saga in the UK, because it is up to everyone to get their focus on their elected representatives, on the fire brigade, the fire and rescue service in Lancashire, on the police, on the ambulance services, on the NHS, and of course, not least, on their local MPs, and draw their attention and make it clear that in drawing their attention to this oversight on their part, they will be culpable in the event of a situation arising which requires the evacuation of people who live within the vicinity. And as you know, we discussed last night, Kirkham Grammar School is about a mile or so away from the well site, and every parent of every pupil at Kirkham Grammar School and the other schools in the area should be contacting the principal of those schools and asking the principal to explain to them exactly what the procedure would be in the event of a blowout or something similar occurring during school hours. Otherwise, basically, it's just going to descend into absolute pandemonium, and the potential loss of life or long-term negative health impact will be simply unimaginable. So, you know, this is the crux of the issue right now, and it is beholden upon each and every one of us who still have the capability and the capacity to think beyond the end of the week, to get those who have that responsibility, to get those who have taken public office to do the right thing and stand up for what they know to be right, and not succumb to the political or the corporate pressure. And sadly, you know, one of the things that we have seen in the US in particular is that when events like this do occur, one of the ways in which the industry keeps it quiet is simply to buy people's silence, to offer them a sum of money so that they will just shut up, and along with that sum of money comes the receipt and release and the confidentiality agreement. So the agreement that they won't share it, and the agreement that they will never ever suggest that the unfortunate experience is in any way related to the gas companies. So there you have it. Please invest a bit of time, either today or over the weekend, in watching Fracking Nightmare episode 116. And at the end of the show, I have listed a number of questions that were put forward by the Southwest Pennsylvania Environment Group, and there's 11 questions there, I think it is 11, that are absolutely essential questions that need to be asked of everyone who has any responsibility for your safety and for the safety of the 500,000+ people who live in the downwind zone of Preston New Road. So that's it for me. I'm going to get my map and compass out and try and find my way back to my car. And I don't know if you can hear the bird song in the background, but you know, it's a beautiful morning chorus. But you won't be hearing that morning chorus if a gas cloud emerges from Preston New Road. And as we've also seen, if it's a limited leak, the likelihood is that they won't even tell you. Get on the case. Thanks for watching, and I will be back with you at 8:30 on Monday morning. And if you feel so motivated to get an email off to the emergency services or to your politicians, please do it via www.whatdotheyknow.com, and in the search box put Lancashire Fire and Rescue, or put the particular politician that you want to address, and that way your question to those people is in the public domain, and there are, you know, timelines that they are supposed to follow in respect of responding to your question. So have a great weekend, and I will be back with you on Monday morning.